move on to the challenge submissions. So the challenge from last week was to create, test, and share your own template, and or create, test, and share your own diagram of an organic approach. So again, the way I broke down this idea of layout is you could have a very structured approach where you actually have lines on the page that help you decide where to put certain ideas, or you don't have that structure on the page, but you still have some sort of an idea of how you're going to go about filling the page. And that could be a real specific diagram that shows exactly kind of what you'll do and how you'll fill the page, or it could just be a general idea. And the nice thing here is that you get to play around with how much structure to add, how much of a plan to have in place before you start any particular note-taking session. So let's look at some examples here. Here's one from Joy, who looks like she's here today, who is a librarian, if I remember correctly. And what Joy has here is a cool template for taking notes on a book. So you can see how there's a space dedicated to title and author. I'm guessing some publication details and information here, a summary of the book. As a blogger, I think Joy, this is a place for her to jot down ideas about potential blog posts to correspond to this book. And I think in the forum post, Joy mentioned what goes in this box and what these icons correspond to, but I have forgotten. Joy, if you feel like it, and if you're in a place where you can share what these icons are for, and also if you've had a chance to use this template, it'd be awesome to hear about that. I see your hand raised. So Joy, I have unmuted you, so you should be good to go. Tell us a bit more about this template here and how it's going, if you've used it.
I haven't used it, but I built it based on some notes that I have been taking. So I'm pretty sure those are going to work as departments for me.
Great. Great. Yeah, and describe this box right here. The one with the icons at the top.
That's where I want to put my thoughts about a book, and I was starting to evolve to have bullet points, and they were kind of coded. So there's a little happy face for the things I like about the book, and a frowny face for the things I don't like about the book, and then questions that I might want to ask myself or go back and look in the book about something, and then the check marks kind of conclusions that I want to draw and maybe make sure it gets in my blog post.
Very cool. What, Joy, out of curiosity, what type of posts do you do as a follow-up to reading a particular book?
It's usually a book review, although from a librarian's perspective, that's less about whether a book is good or bad so much as about whether what kind of reader will find this book appealing.
Very cool. Very cool. Joy, have you connected with other, what's the blogging community of librarians like? Have you noticed or connected with other librarians out there that are also blogging in the same way that you are, or not so much?
They're kind of two separate communities, and I'm more in touch at the moment with the book blogging community, which is about book reviews, although there are a number of librarians who do that. And then the librarian blogging community is more about the backstage things that's happening in libraries and information literacy and digital technology and that kind of thing.
Okay. So are you kind of in the middle of those two then? Do you touch on kind of the more back-end stuff, or do you stick primarily to talking about books?
I'm more on the book blogging side.
Cool. Cool. Well, I really like your idea of having kind of like a keyed icon approach, and it'll be interesting to see if new icons develop as you use this template and test it out.
Yeah, I think that could happen.
Cool. Well, thank you, Joy. Do you have anything else you'd like to share about these notes or layout in general before I let you go?
Nope, that's great for now. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Joy. Very cool. Thank you, Joy, for coming on. Here is, this feels like a radio show almost. Call in to be on the show. Here's a somewhat similar template style, but instead of being a way to take notes, here's one from Kath about creating recipes or cooking templates. And I think what we've got here is the type of meal. And then to the left of that, we have the ingredients. And I love how the container for that bulleted list of ingredients is, in fact, a pot itself. And then I think the recipe goes here. And then I'm going to guess commentary on the meal, what you thought of the meal, and maybe some sketches of the meal itself. So I thought this was a really cool one. And I've seen a couple people, there was one particular activity within the verbal to visual notebook where I encourage people to do something like this, not necessarily create a template for it, but to sketch out the recipe for a particular meal and then cook it and give a review. And this is kind of a fun, anything related to food or meals is a fun way to incorporate sketching as well. I feel like I've seen people, folks that keep maybe like an illustrated journal, which reminds me, there's a cool post. I included in the library a couple books by Austin Kleon. He has this cool blog post about, what does he call it? He keeps this like one, or at least at one point, he was keeping like a 1-page journal for each day where he didn't write out long from what was going on each day, but for each little page, he had maybe 6 or 7 items, 6 or 7 things that he did. And for each thing that he did, he had a little icon or a little sketch associated with it. So it's kind of a cool visual journal that I'll have to look up and share. For some reason, this reminded me of that. It also made me think just a couple of months ago for my mom's birthday, I put together this Neil family recipe book. And I wish all of the recipes within this had this sort of cool sketched format that you see from Kath's cooking template. But I guess I was a little too lazy. They're just normal photo and recipe here all in text. But at some point it might be fun to go back and sketch it out because it would be cool. I really like this kind of illustrated cookbook format. That's kind of a cool thing. But with mine, I went the relatively lazy route of using Epicurious. If there are any other people that like to cook out there, I limit myself, speaking of constraints, to the way I cook, at least currently, to using the site called Epicurious. It has some cool, quick and easy recipes. It has a big like categorization, ways to find different meals, and I go with the quick and easy ones. So if you're looking for a good recipe, check out that site.